Hey, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another video. This is going to be another one of the update videos I've been doing. I guess I've been doing about one a week since this situation all got so crazy. Anyways, as you could see from the thumbnail and probably that opening I just put in, I do have a lot of time on my hands. The opening is something I've been thinking about for a long time doing. I've always wanted to try some stop motion little things, but it's one of those time constraint things where it always gets pushed down the list of things I want to try out. But in the video I made yesterday, I'd set up this crazy overhead rig so I could shoot down on the cameras I was showing. And so I didn't want to have to do a whole B-roll segment of that stuff. So I figured if I ran two cameras, that would help it out. And then it's good for the cuts and all that kind of stuff. So today when I was looking over there, I'm like, oh, that's exactly how you set up for stop motion. So I had the idea to try that out. So it's interesting. That was 90 photos and it made that at about a 5-second pace, which could have even gone twice as fast. That's how it were rendered in Premiere originally, and then I slowed it down. So it really gives you an appreciation for someone who's really good at stop motion, how much effort it goes into. That's just tearing up a piece of paper and moving some, negatives around. I basically picked a starting spot, went around, moved everything a little, took the photo, went around, whole process. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool, something fun to try out. And then the thumbnail, I've done something like that before. It's basically you take a photo of yourself sitting on something, then you take a photo without you and what you were sitting on in there and make a couple layers, make a layer mask, and then erase whatever you were sitting on. I added a little shadow underneath myself to sell it a little more. So yeah, just a fun thing. Workwise, I had the video I talked about last week with the CEO. That actually kind of turned into an interesting situation because when I was trying to set up the audio, my Zoom recorder died on me. It just it wouldn't work. It wouldn't read the cards. It kept saying no data, it kept trying to load. I was kind of stressing pretty hard, but trying to keep a cool face, thinking I'll figure this out, I'll do something. I've always thought, photographers, videographers, problem solving is what we do. Your clients, they don't want to know about the problems. That's why they hired you. Anyone can go out and buy a camera. Your job is to make everything work. So I was getting pretty frustrated, and the Zoom has always given me a little problems like that. Once it's on and working, it's fine, but there's just times where it's been unreliable. What I ended up doing was running the lavalier mic directly to the camera, which was a little nerve-wracking because I couldn't monitor it while I was filming, and the compression and the auto modes on the camera just doesn't sound the greatest, which I was able to fix a lot, in post-processing. But I just decided, even though I'm trying not to spend money now, I can't rely on the Zoom anymore. So I went out to buy, looks like kind of its nearest competition, this Tascam recorder. Similar thing, it has some built-in mics, but then a couple XLR inputs and a quarter-inch inputs also. So I set it up to make my video the other day because it just came, and try and use it. And the adapter I had for all my mini jacks with the mics I have, I couldn't get barely any input volume. Ton of research, ton of talking to my friend Josh online. And it turns out with these kind of inputs and the kind of inputs I have, they're not compatible, and you have to buy this powered plug to make it work. So it's one of those things where, losing your mind, finally figure out what I need, go to order it. It's completely back ordered and out of stock everywhere. And then shipping everywhere is slow because of, the obvious situation. So luckily today, the Zoom turned back on. So I do have one more video coming up with the CEO next week, so hopefully those come in before then. If not, I'm probably going to borrow Josh's recorder because I will never rely on the Zoom again. To be in that situation is horrible, but it all worked out, got it done. That was kind of one of the last pieces of real work I had. I did do a portrait on the Friday after at the food bank. Since they have the National Guard helping, it was kind of cool. I went up on a scissor lift and did a big portrait of everybody, the food bank employees and the guard. Actually set up a couple big strobe lights and bounced them off the ceiling. I thought it came out really cool. I did have to shoot at a super wide angle and then try and fix the distortion because of how many people were in the shot, but pretty cool shot. So yeah, those two things were pretty much the last main paying things I had. As I mentioned also, I have been riding my bike around and photographing my friend Mike's portfolio, which are sculpture installations. Some are at the various busy entrances to Akron, and other ones are in the park. That's been something really enjoyable to do. One, I like the photography, and then I could get there on my bike. And so over the weekend, I went and did one with Aaron up in the Cuyahoga Valley, and yesterday it was beautiful, and I went around and did a couple of the Akron ones. And then while I've been doing that, I've been making cycling videos to go along with it with the GoPro Hero 8. And then I've also been carrying my Minolta X700 with various black and white films. As I said, I've been shooting a lot of black and white again. One, that's more my analog passion anyways, but I can develop that here at home with my own equipment and the chemicals I already have. So I don't need to run to a lab, and there's no labs open. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I've been doing. On Saturday, Aaron had two of our friends over, and we had a bonfire. And I was thinking how I also said last week, how I feel like I'm back at the beginning of my career. And that night really kind of felt like that, because I brought my tripod and I'm taking pictures of my friends and trying to make them look as cool as possible. My friends and the photos. And then I did some long exposures of the fire, and then I even did some light painting with my bicycle light. And it just really did feel like that, where it's like I'm doing all these little projects, or when I'm just hanging out, it's an opportunity to do photos. There have been times over the last few years where I've, going to do something like that, and I leave the camera at home because I already have so much work to do, and then I maybe skip out on an opportunity to do a personal project or something cool. And now it's almost all the personal projects and the stuff that I find cool and interesting. So, don't get me wrong. I love my job. I love being a photographer. I like doing almost all the paid work. There's a few times where it does feel like a job, but in general, I like doing it. But it is nice in a way to have the time to do some of the things you want to do. I was kind of, when I was out riding my bike, I was going through at West Akron, and I stopped to take a picture of my bike in front of this cool mural that happened to be a cycling mural as well. And I was remembering this guy I used to know. His name, I think, was Perry. He used to hang out at a coffee shop where my girlfriend at the time was a barista. I think he probably kind of had a crush on her, but whatever. He was probably in his late 50s, and he had all these little projects he would do. He had like a bunch of aliases. He had a blog where he posted poetry, and then he had a photography blog and all this little stuff. And he was actually just moved back to Akron because his father had passed, and he was working on the estate and trying to get the inheritance and all that. We were talking about money one day, and he kind of brought up that one of those "there's two kind of people in the world" things, and probably didn't word it like that, but he was saying, someone who was given enough money to basically be comfortable. You didn't have to work. He said there's, the two kind of people thing. He's the kind of people who'd say, all right, I'm done. And the other kind of person is the kind of person that says, now it's time to get to work. And I always really related with that second part. And I was thinking of that when I was out riding my bike with 3 cameras in my bags and doing what I want. And I was thinking, with this quarantine or stay-at-home situation, what would I be doing if my bank account had a couple extra zeros in it during this period? And I was like, this is what I would be doing. It would be, in my mind, I don't think it would really be that different. I am kind of doing what I want to do. I do hope all this, starts to clear up in some point, and we can get back out there, and, gathering paychecks is nice. It's, living off my savings is not what I had intended for the emergency fund, but it is what it is, and things could be way worse. Like I said, they're way worse for a lot of people, and we're all in it together. So I hope everyone's staying safe out there, and until the next video, I will see you later.